I'm Jill Savage, joined as always by Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
You know, I thought we were done with Epstein, but it's never ending, never ending.
It is never ending, and it's this man's favorite topic, our politics editor out in D.C., Chris Bedford.
How'd you know? It's my favorite.
It is. It's, you know what, but at least we have some new news today. You know, President Trump, he made it pretty clear, right? Like, there's one side of the Epstein files, and then Trump's like, we could be done, right? He's on the Chris Bedford train. But right now, it looks like he's actually ready to release some credible info and give the public the transparency that we have all been asking for. And now, AG Pam Bondi has directed the DOJ to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime partner and alleged recruiter. So, Matt, we have so much news that's coming out that despite Bedford and Trump's best wishes, we're still talking about it here on this show.
Well, look, I mean, I think that I think the White House has made a strong statement. You know, the administration over the last few days that they are interested in transparency. They want to hear. They want to answer some of the questions that are out there. And this is really sensational. I mean, we live in this time where, as I say, people used to say nothing ever happens. Well, everything happens all the time in the Trump news cycle 2.0. So talking to Maxwell is the kind of thing that's sensational in the sense that everyone's going to be talking about it. Everyone's going to know what she has to say. And it's a very interesting legal sort of. I mean, it's an interview to find out more. I mean, how will this actually? What questions will they ask? How will this play out? It's fascinating, and that's why everyone's talking about it. And they're not gonna stop. And what you notice, though, is the Trump administration staunched the bleeding. So right now, everyone's talking about what they're actually doing. And then we also have Tulsi doing some very serious stuff when it comes to collusion. So, you know, we see that the ship is righted, and the walls were never closing in on Donald Trump, you know, for the last time.
So the news things that happened today, let's go ahead and break it down for everybody. Deputy AG Todd Blanche came out on X and said that justice demands courage. For the first time, DOJ is actually reaching out to Maxwell, asking, what do you know? And Pam Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits. And shortly after that post came out, Chris, the House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena Maxwell over the Epstein files. And then we get from Maxwell's lawyer, David Marcus, says that he can confirm that we are in discussions with the government, that Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. We are grateful to President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case. So there's a lot moving forward. Will this lead to anything, Chris?
I mean, it certainly could. It certainly could. She's going to name names. The question is, what evidence could be provided for actual prosecutions, which is always a risk now that the administration faces. The thing about Maxwell, Madam Maxwell, is that she's got no dog in this fight. She could be interested in revenge. She could be interested in chaos. She could be interested in hurting Donald Trump. She could be interested in helping the cause for truth. Maybe she's had just a huge turnaround in prison and said, you know, I really need to get right with the Lord and figure this out. I'm somewhat suspicious of that. I think that her motivations are, of course, as with many criminals who talk to prosecutors, are going to be entirely out for herself. She was never offered a plea deal. She was sentenced to prison. She might try to go for a lesser sentence. And in order to do that, she's going to have to hand over names, which is always a sort of duress that causes someone's testimony to not always be entirely truthful. I mean, you saw that ridiculous Wall Street Journal article, the expose that had that strange esoteric comic that was supposedly written by Donald Trump in a voice that no one has ever heard from the most public figure in the world for 10 years now. But where did that come from? Did that come from the Department of Justice or some disgruntled agents? We know that it was in their files. Or did it come from Maxwell's team and her lawyers? We know that they had a binder that included, she kept a binder that included that card, supposedly at least. So you have to wonder what this woman's motivations are before she comes forward. And here's the risk in general of the client list, of course, is going to be very interesting. The list of people who went to the island is broad. The list of people who went to the island includes artisans, includes workers, includes staff. And then you're going to have the whole question of, well, A 16-year-old girl who refuses to go on the record and refuses to press charges, understandably, considering how many people involved with this case have mysteriously died by by suicide, supposedly. They don't want to press charges. What if they name, as we all strongly suspect, former President Bill Clinton, for example? All right, well, what happens next? Does the MAGA base that's been really angry about the release of these files now get the files, just come suddenly quiet down? Or they demand the arrest of Bill Clinton with no one willing to press charges and the evidence of a woman who won't come forward? So we could find some great stuff here. I think we will. We'll definitely find some juicy stuff. It'll be worth the clicks, worth the views. But is it going to tidy up the administration's mess? That's a different question entirely.
Well, it seems like there's one thought, there in the White House and another thought there up on Capitol Hill last week. Let's go ahead and take a look. Rebecca Zelko asked several members of Congress about this very thing, about Ghislaine Maxwell coming potentially in front of Congress. Take a look.
There have been rumors about Ghislaine Maxwell potentially testifying before Congress, and the Speaker just recently, earlier today, he said that he would be in favor of saying something like that. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
100%. But I'd like to hear what her attorneys say. I don't know if that's something the Democrats have said or she said. I haven't heard her spokespersons or any person, but heck yeah, get her up here. Let's talk.
I don't know what kind of witness that she's going to be and how reliable even what she's going to tell you is, if it's going to involve cutting a deal or something like that. I don't know. But I would, no question, the information she would have and the insights that she would have would be very valuable and interesting for the American people to hear.
Would you like to see this testimony?
I'm happy to see that. Again, transparency is the way that we disinfect Washington, D.C.
It's a good point, Matt. We need some of this transparency out there in D.C. right now.
We do. I mean, when it comes to Maxwell, all eyes will be on her. What kind of transparency will she provide, though? And that's an interesting question. I mean, there are people out there who go so far as to say that she was the instigator. She was the brains behind the operation. And the evidence they use for that is not really evidence of that. But it is true that her father, Robert Maxwell, newspaper publisher, was also someone who's very much involved with several intelligence agencies, no doubt about it. So, look, the basic thing that you would expect is that she's going to come out and defend herself. She hasn't really been allowed to do that. There was no plea deal. No previous administration has talked to her. Nothing was really dangled in front of her. She was just sent to the pokey for all these crimes. She's the only one who took the fall for everything that went around with Epstein. So, you imagine she would want to come out and defend herself. At the very least, she's going to have her time in the sun, and everyone's going to be listening.
Final thoughts, Bedford, on Maxwell and Epstein, at least for today's show.
Oh, well, Robert Maxwell's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, it is. We don't have enough time for that one.
Connects it all, isn't it? The famous wealthy millionaire businessman who never visited Israel but was buried on the Mount of Olives when he passed. An interesting person and maybe a key to why so many people in Washington don't want to learn more.
They have their reasons. Okay.
What will his daughter say?
Well, this is going to be a story that we are definitely going to have to continue some other time. So